Part 24. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Faye. Chapter 232. Chapter 232 Liju, he is my brother, first update. Brother, it's okay, I just have a headache, Baimweo said. Bai Yuxiu's heart ached when he heard this, and he quickly pressed the call bell. The doctor was very surprised that Baimweo could wake up so quickly. After a comprehensive examination, he said, there seems to be no problem at the moment. He can be discharged after a few days of observation. Upon hearing this, Bai Yuxiu breathed a sigh of relief and said, thank you, doctor. Since Baimweo has woken up and the doctor said the problem is not serious, Liju and Qi Jinkai no longer need to stay here. They comforted Bai Yuxiu and left. Before leaving, Baimweo glanced at Liju in private, making it clear that he didn't want her to leave, and he hadn't finished hearing the gossip yet. Liju rolled his eyes and closed the door coldly and ruthlessly, leaving only a figure behind. Baimweo curled his lips, feeling a little regretful. After the two left, Bai Yuxiu sat on the edge of the hospital bed and asked, Xiaoyu, do you know who the person who wants to harm you is? Baimweo's eyes flashed and he said, I know. Who? Qin Kaiyuning. As she spoke, she sighed, I have known her for several years, but I didn't expect that she would. I think back then, she met Qin Kaiyuning, who was living on the street, on her way to shoot an advertisement. Seeing that she was decent looking, she brought her into the industry. In the past few years, her attitude towards herself has been considered respectful. I don't know why, but I suddenly did this time. Brother, I always feel something is strange. What's weird? Baimweo pondered and expressed her thoughts. According to her temperament, she would not do such a bold thing. Bai Yuxiu sneered, secretly sighing that her temper was still too gentle. The entertainment industry is a place that eats people without spitting out their bones. Who knows whether Qin Kaiyuning's usual temper is just an act? Xiao, she usually gets along with you, maybe she's just pretending, she's already like this, you don't have to speak for her. Baimweo. Does she look like she has a virgin's heart? Qin Kaiyuning is going to kill her. If she still speaks for her, then she is not the Holy Mother, and her brain will be eaten by a dog. She really felt that this matter was very strange. Brother, I'm not speaking for her. First of all, although Qin Kaiyuning has received a lot of help from me over the years, she is still an 18th level person with no power behind her. At most, she can barely gain a foothold in the entertainment industry. So, where does she get the courage? Dare to attack me blatantly? I am the eldest daughter of the Bai family, it is easy to kill her, why should she seek death on her own? Besides, most of her survival in the entertainment industry these years has been through my name. If she offends me, how can she survive? Bai Yuxiu frowned, which did make sense. So I feel that if she dared to attack me, she must have been instructed by someone else. You mean, there is someone behind that woman? Baimweo nodded. Bai Yuxiu frowned deeply, with indelible emotions brewing in his eyes. After a while, he touched Baimweo's head and said in a gentle voice, okay, leave these things to me, you can rest in peace and recover. Baimweo nodded obediently, but did not forget to say the last sentence, brother, you'd better check Qin Kaiyuning's recent income and expenditure. She still has a large family to support, so the only way she can do this is to buy it with money. Good. Over there, Liju was sitting in the car, twirling a strand of hair in circles, his eyes lacking interest. What's wrong? Qi Jinkai held the steering wheel with both hands and caught a glimpse of Liju's listless look from the corner of his eyes, which was a little strange. It was fine just now, but why did it change when we got in the car? I'm wondering if you and I are naturally at odds with each other. Qi Jinkai's eyes flashed and he asked, why? Nothing good has happened since the day I met you. He teased me, seduced me, enslaved me, and was forced to be engaged. Now I have to live with him under the same roof. No matter how you look at it, this person is her nemesis. Chi Jinkai raised his thin lips and raised his eyebrows slightly, saying, I should be the one saying this to you. I was robbed by her when they first met, and a few years later they were teased by her, and finally with her. Li Ju narrowed his eyes. Do you still have a point? If it weren't for you this time, I wouldn't have been kicked out of my old house by Grandpa. Won't I take you in too? Li Ju gritted his teeth and said word by word, you still want me to live on the street? It's not enough to get her out, but also to leave her with nowhere to go? Chi Jinkai, I didn't say that. Li Ju hummed softly, turned to look out the window, and frowned, isn't this the way back to the apartment? Chi Jinkai nodded and said, I'll take you to dinner. She stayed with Bai Yuxiu in the hospital for most of the day. It was already 1 o'clock in the afternoon. She hadn't eaten in the morning. If she didn't eat this meal, her appetite would be unbearable. You please. I'll treat. Li Ju arched her eyebrows, raised her lips, and said no more. Chi Jinkai took her to a private restaurant with a good reputation. Although it was not mealtime, the place was still crowded. Lady boss, follow the previous rules, Chi Jing said. The landlady is a middle-aged woman in her 40s or 50s. Her appearance is very well maintained, and her youthful charm can be seen from her temperament. Seeing that Li Ju was still with him, she blinked in surprise and said with a smile, the third master hasn't been here for a long time. He has a girlfriend after a long time. Before Chi Jinkai could answer, Li Ju said first, I'm not his girlfriend. Just a fiancé with a marriage contract. Chi Jinkai pursed his lips and glanced at her without saying a word. The landlady doesn't usually go online, and she didn't know the relationship between their unmarried couple, so she was even more surprised. She looked Li Ju up and down. He had a delicate appearance, cool eyebrows, and an aura that was difficult to get along with. His body was slim and tall, and he didn't look like an ordinary person. The landlady joked, Third Master, where did you find this little sister? She looks so eye-catching. Little sister? Li Ju raised his eyebrows slightly and followed her words, yes, I am his sister. After finishing speaking, Li Ju turned to look at Chi Jinkai and asked, is that so? Third brother. Chi Jinkai was stunned. The word third brother was full of ridicule, but when she said it in her clear and beautiful voice, it was like making a circle on the tip of the tongue, making people's hearts itch. Chi Jinkai lowered his eyes to look at her, his eyes darkened, his Adam's apple slid up and down, and he hummed. The landlady has met Chi Maoyi, and she also knows that Chi Jinkai has only one sister, so where did this sister come from? And it seems that the relationship with the third master is not normal. Before she could figure it out, Chi Jinkai spoke up, Lady boss, please order one from the previous menu and bring it over. Okay. Chi Jinkai turned to Li Ju and said, let's go. After speaking, he took her directly to the second floor. Are you familiar with this place? Li Ju took a look at the private room. It was carefully decorated, but it didn't look like an ordinary private room. The only possibility is that he took over this place. We have Lu Qingrand's shares here, and we often brought Wei Wei and others here before. That's no wonder. Master Ju calls him third brother because he is the third eldest child in the family, which is different from Xiao Wu's third brother. End of this chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy Enfei. Chapter 233. Chapter 233 Everyone, is there a woman in the third master's family? Second update. Perhaps it was because Chi Jinkai was a regular customer and the food was served very quickly, even by the landlady herself. Today's crucian carp has just been delivered, it's very fresh, try it. The landlady placed the crucian carp soup in the center of the table and smiled lightly at Li Ju. Miss Li is so thin, she should make up for it. Li Ju politely replied, thank you. You're welcome, I'll give your third brother a supplement too, he's too thin. The landlady originally came from the countryside, and she always believed that it was healthier to be fair and fat. In her eyes, Li Ju and Chi Jinkai were no different from two bamboo poles standing together. Li Ju suppressed a smile. Okay. Then I'll go out first, please take your time. After putting down all the dishes, the lady boss left. The door was closed, and Li Ju finally couldn't help it and left. Chi Jinkai stretched out his long white fingers to pick up the chopsticks and glanced at her. Girl, the seniority is messed up. What is this little girl talking about? Li Ju was so happy that she couldn't control it. She almost burst into tears. When she heard this, she waved her hand and said, "It's okay. You are 6 years older than me. Isn't it right to call you brother?" Seeing how happy she was, Chi Jinkai couldn't help but remind her, "You call me brother, where did you put Wei? It's a good thing you didn't mention this. I'm actually a generation shorter than that girl Wei," Li Ju said. "Obviously we are best friends, but in the end we become elders. Who can feel comfortable with this?" Li Ju bit the end of her chopsticks and watched Chi Jinkai slowly pick out the fish bones. An idea suddenly came to her mind. "Third master, why don't we worship you?" Her abrupt words almost didn't cause Chi Jinkai to get pricked on his finger by a fish bone. "What did you say?" Li Ju raised his eyebrows, thinking that his idea was feasible, so he threw away his chopsticks, moved the chair closer to Chi Jinkai, and said with bright eyes, "I said, let's get married, shall we?" Chi Jinkai looked at her serious eyes and fell into silence. Chi Jinkai put a finger on her fair and smooth forehead and pushed it slightly. "Don't make trouble." Li Ju hummed and sat up straight, saying, "Who is making trouble? I'm serious. I have a relationship with you, and you are my brother. Wei has to call me sister." "Sister?" Chi Jinkai asked with interest, "A sister who is 2 years older than you?" Li Ju. Although she doesn't want to admit it, Chi Mao Yi is indeed 2 years older than her. Li Ju, so what? Do you want to worship me or not? Do not worship. Chi Jinkai looked at her with a trace of helplessness in his eyes. Helping her fiancé, has her emotional intelligence been bitten? The curvature of the corners of Li Ju's mouth gradually disappeared, he squinted his eyes, kept silent, and ignored him. Chi Jinkai lowered his head and continued to play with the crucian carp meat on the plate slowly. After a while, he had a small plate full. He raised his head and glanced at Li Ju. She was eating her own meal. She looked very elegant, as if she had been educated in aristocratic etiquette. Chi Jinkai stretched out his arms, took the empty plate in front of her, placed his own plate in front of her, and said, "Eat." Li Ju was a little dumbfounded and asked in disbelief, "Did you pick the fish bone for me?" Chi Jinkai raised his eyebrows. "What if? Just when I saw that you wanted to eat fish but couldn't move your chopsticks, I knew you were too lazy to pick out the fish bones." The corners of Li Ju's mouth rose, and the unhappiness of being rejected immediately disappeared. "I didn't expect him to be quite good at it. His eyes are so detailed." Had she not known that he had not had a girlfriend before, she would have really suspected that this was a discernment that could only be honed by having many exes. Picking up the fish and putting it into his mouth, Li Ju arched his eyebrows in enjoyment, looked at Chi Jinkai and said, "Are you really not going to think about it?" Chi Jinkai served her a bowl of soup and said, "Eat quickly." Li Ju snorted, "Let me call you brother so you can take advantage of me, okay?" Chi Jinkai slightly hooked his thin lips, his eyes were soft, and smiled. "Actually, if you want to surpass Wei in terms of seniority, it's easy." Li Ju raised his eyebrows. "Huh?" Chi Jinkai leaned over and whispered in her ear, "If you marry me, Wei will have to call you third sister-in-law." The warm breath wrapped around my ears, causing a tingling sensation. Li Ju stiffened, and the fish on his chopsticks fell to the table. Almost instantly, Li Ju quickly distanced herself from Qi Jinkai, straightened her back, and said, "Don't push yourself too hard. The engagement is only temporary. Who is going to marry you?" Qi Jinkai also sat up straight and looked at her funny. "If you don't want to marry, you won't marry. Why are your ears red?" Li Ju used her chopsticks to poke at the medium fish meat on the plate, mistook it for Qi Jinkai, and rolled her eyes in her heart. He was the second person who could make her call her brother, but he turned out to be so ungrateful. After being rejected twice, Li Ju was naturally not so clueless and gave up. The meal gave Li Ju a stomachache, but Qi Jinkai was very happy. Before leaving, when the landlady said, "Come back next time," he actually nodded. After dinner, it was already past 2:30 when we returned to the apartment. As soon as she entered the door, Li Ju went straight to her room and said to Qi Jinkai, "I want to take a nap, don't disturb me." Qi Jinkai raised his wrist and looked at the time, 2:40, taking a nap. However, before he could say anything, Li Ju had already closed and locked the door, as if she was afraid that he would do something bad. Sighing softly, Qi Jinkai took off his coat and put on his slippers. Qi Jinkai picked up the documents that he had not finished reading in the morning and went to the study. Li Ju woke up from hunger. She stood up and looked at the time, which was 6 o'clock sharp. Winter has entered now, and the days are short and the nights are long in the northern hemisphere. At this time, it is completely dark outside. Fumbling to find the switch and turning on the indoor light, Li Ju scratched his head. Just as he was about to ask Jo Ma to make something for her to eat, he suddenly realized that he was in Qi Jinkai's apartment. Li Ju. Living together is really troublesome, and there is no one to even eat. Opening the door to the bedroom, the living room was also dark, with only a little warm yellow light coming from the study, which faintly sprinkled on the floor. Li Ju knocked on the door of the study room. After receiving the answer, he opened the door and said, "I'm hungry. Do you have anything to eat here?" Qi Jinkai was sitting in front of the computer, supporting his head with one hand, his eyebrows lowered and his eyes light, as if he had no interest. Hearing her words, he raised his head, squinted his eyes and looked at the time, only to realize that the video conference had been going on for more than 2 hours. That's right, video conferencing. The expressions on the faces of everyone reporting work across the screen were blank for a moment. Just now, was that a woman's voice? They don't have auditory hallucinations, do they? Isn't Third Master at home? How could there be a woman? Everyone thought carefully with their minds that were a little stiff after having been in the meeting for so long, and came to a conclusion. I go. Is there a woman in the Third Master's family? Just now, a little cutie reminded me that I realized that my seniority was wrong and I have already corrected it. It's really embarrassing. It's all my fault. Why is seniority so complicated when I have nothing to do? Third Master, squinting, you are a stupid fool and you blame me? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Fei. Chapter 234. Chapter 234 Scene 1, Dog food slapped on the face, first update. No. While everyone was astonished, Qi Jinkai faintly uttered one word. He has been living in the old house these days. He just came back yesterday and there is nothing in the apartment. Li Ju made a sound, with a bleak look on his face, and asked again, "Can you cook?" As soon as the question came out, Qi Jinkai fell silent, raised his phoenix eyes and looked at her for a few seconds. Li Ju said expressionlessly, "Okay, I understand." Qi Jinkai. Everyone who has witnessed everything is still very happy. What happened? Are they hallucinating? Why is there a woman in the Third Master's family? And this woman seems to be very familiar with the third master. Chi Jinkai blocked the camera. Everyone had never seen Li Ju before, so they naturally didn't recognize her. At this moment, their eyes were so shocked that they almost popped out of their heads. I go. Isn't the third master engaged to the eldest lady of the Li family? What is this? Third master cheated? Everyone was silent. Although they had never seen Li Ju, they felt that she must be very green at this moment. Li Ju, who was inexplicably green, tilted his head, looked past Chi Jinkai at the computer with the screen still on, and asked, "Are you working?" Chi Jinkai nodded, walked around the desk with his long legs, sat back far away, and said with a cold voice, "I'll come here today, and put the report in my office tomorrow." He had already turned off the video before the confused people could react. Everyone. Feeling like I have witnessed something extraordinary. Now what? Li Ju showed his hands to Chi Jinkai. She didn't know how to cook. There was no food here. Are they going to starve to death tonight? Have no idea. Li Ju touched his chin and said, "Would you like to order takeout?" Chi Jinkai frowned and refused, "No, it's not healthy." Li Ju. May I ask where you came from? The ancients didn't eat takeout. Isn't takeout delicious? This didn't work, and Li Ju couldn't think of a way. She stared straight at Chi Jinkai, with one meaning in her eyes, hungry. After 2 seconds of silence, Chi Jinkai stood up and said to her, "I'll think of a solution." 15 minutes later, Jing Ai knocked on the apartment door. "Sir, did you call me?" Chi Jinkai is sitting on a soft European-style sofa. The sleeves of his white shirt are rolled up, revealing his lean and cold white forearms. His legs are crossed in a noble and cold posture. Beside him, Li Ju curled up on the sofa, her head resting on her arm, lying on her side on the sofa and yawning repeatedly, her eyes a little dazed. The two of them looked at him together, and the superposition of their double glances made him break into a cold sweat for no reason. He should have done nothing wrong, right? Jing Yi guiltily raised a large bag of vegetables in his hand and said, "Master, this is the food you want." Chi Jinkai glanced at it, nodded slightly, and suddenly asked, "Can you cook?" Jing Ai was stunned, "Huh?" After a few seconds, he suddenly reacted, and doubts arose in his heart. Why did I ask him this question? Is the assessment of his skills as a subordinate incomplete? Before he could think of a result, Chi Jinkai stretched out his hand and pointed to the kitchen behind, "Go and cook." Jing Ai. Looking at the clock on the wall, Jing Yi immediately realized that it was dinner time, but his father didn't know how to cook, and it seemed that his wife didn't know how either. Jing Yi coughed lightly and said quickly, "Yes, master, I'll go right away." Fortunately, when he wasn't with Chi Jinkai, he lived alone, had some ability to take care of himself, and could still eat the food he cooked, otherwise today would be embarrassing. There was a clanking sound in the kitchen. Li Ju yawned, opened his delicate and charming eyes, glanced at the kitchen uncertainly, and asked, "Are you sure he can cook?" Chi Jinkai glanced at her cell phone. "There are 3 pieces of information on it." "Can you cook?" "Master, I don't know how." If you are looking for someone who can cook, Jing Yi's skills are pretty good. So, Jing Ai is in the kitchen now. Li Ju. All right, let her believe it for now. Li Ju was lying on the sofa until half of his body was numb, so he stood up and sat up straight. In this way, he was much closer to Chi Jinkai. "Third brother, this can't go on like this." Li Ju supported his head and said. "Neither she nor he can cook, but they will have to live together for a while, and the food issue will be a problem." Chi Jinkai pondered for a moment and came up with a solution: go out to eat in the future. Li Ju rejected it without hesitation. "No, is it possible to go out to eat every meal? Once or twice is okay, but if you eat out for 3 meals a day. She is lazy and doesn't want to bother so much." Chi Jinkai thought for a while and then asked, then, go back to the old house to eat? Li Ju, you want Grandpa Chi and Grandma Chi to know that I live with you. At that time, I am afraid that the two old men will ask them to get the certificate directly. Neither method worked. Chi Jinkai frowned, then what do you think we should do? Li Ju's eyes lit up, she came closer and said, are you going to learn how to cook? Why didn't you go? Li Ju shrugged and said helplessly, I wanted to do it too, but not only did I blow up the kitchen, but I also sent the chef who taught me to the hospital. It seems that I have no talent. Chi Jinkai. Why does your tone sound so proud? Li Ju then brainwashed, as the dream lover of a billionaire in the empire, you can't even cook, right? Chi Jinkai glanced at her, have you ever seen a woman who likes a man because of cooking? Li Ju pointed at herself and said, me. Chi Jinkai opened his mouth and wanted to say something else, but out of the corner of his eye he saw Jingyi coming out of the kitchen. Sir, the meal is ready. Li Ju's eyes lit up, and she jumped down from the sofa, staring at him with burning eyes, as if she was looking at a prey that was being targeted. Jingyi's heart skipped a beat and he suddenly became nervous. Is there something on his face? Madam, why is she suddenly looking at herself like this? Chi Jinkai followed Li Ju closely, raised his hand and patted her on the head, saying to Jing, don't worry, she's going crazy with hunger. Jing ai. Li Ju. Li Ju narrowed her eyes dangerously and slapped Chi Jinkai's hand on her head away with a slap, you're crazy. Chi Jinkai quickly retracted his hand. Even so, the back of his hand was still a big red. He raised his eyebrows slightly and asked with interest, you are angry because of shame. Li Ju wanted to give him a slap in the face. Chi Jinkai chuckled, raised his hand and touched her head, okay, I know you are hungry, go and eat. Jing ai. Why did he think these two were flirting in front of him? There was also a feeling like tons of dog food was slapped on his face. Jing ai looked numb, looking at the scene of the two people being in love, silently acting as the background wall, slowly moving to the door, and then quickly fled the scene. Sighing as he walked, you didn't even ask him to come over to cook at night, but you also forced him to feed him dog food? Master, you have changed. End of this chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Fei. Chapter 235. Chapter 235 Li Ju, is this person crazy? Second update. After finishing the meal, Li Ju put down his chopsticks and stared straight at Chi Jinkai with his dark eyes, motionless. Maybe the gaze was too strong to ignore. After a few seconds, Chi Jinkai finally put down his chopsticks and looked up at her. He lowered his eyes slightly and looked at her bowls and chopsticks. He easily guessed what she was thinking, put the bowls aside, I wash. Li Ju curled her lips, a pleasant smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, but in order not to show it too obviously, she pressed the curve hard, then leave it to you. After saying that, he got up and went back to the room. Chi Jinkai was left alone, sitting there looking at her back in concentration, with a slight smile in his eyes. Did you attract an ancestor? Shaking his head slightly, Chi Jinkai accepted his fate and put away the dishes. He had a misophobia, so he was naturally picky about how to wash the dishes. Therefore, it originally didn't take 2 or 3 minutes to finish, but he had to go back and forth for 5 minutes. Li Ju returned to the room and felt that her appetite was bloated, probably because she was full. Jing Ai's cooking skills are not very good, but who wants Chi Jinkai to accompany her to dinner? Li Ju clenched her fist to her lips and coughed lightly, her eyes flickering a little. It had to be said that Chi Jinkai's face was really full of food. Looking at him, her stomach was like a bottomless pit, accepting all kinds of rivers. As a result, I now have food accumulated in my stomach, which makes me feel very uncomfortable. Li Ju looked around the room. The suitcase he had delivered before was still placed in the corner. Apart from a bed and a table, there were almost no other furnishings. After pondering for a while, Li Ju stretched out her long legs, walked around the boxes scattered on the ground, walked to a black backpack, opened the zipper, and took out a small white Walkman. The Walkman looks to be a bit old, and there are a few dark marks faintly visible on the outer shell, as if it was scratched by something hard. Take out the headphones and connect the Walkman. Li Ju put the earphones into his ears, stretched his arms left and right a few times, threw his body forward and fell to the ground, resting his arms on the floor with his elbows, doing a standard plank support. Half an hour later, Li Ju stood up, looked at the corner by the door, and twisted his wrist. Coming to the corner, he put his hands on the ground, turned his slender body over easily, put his legs together in the air, and did an easy handstand against the wall. Since the whole person was turned upside down, the black sweatshirt and the white t-shirt underneath shrank down, revealing a thin and white waist. The long legs were neatly put together, as straight as pine and bamboo, and the clear vest line was faintly visible, which was eye-catching. Flirting. Li Ju closed her eyes gently, her long curly eyelashes trembling, her black hair falling to the ground, and the earphone cord also hung down. However, about 10 minutes later, when Li Ju was concentrating, the door was suddenly pushed open. Chi Jinkai came to the door of Li Ju's room and saw that the door was unlocked. He thought she was not asleep yet, so he put his hand on the doorknob and pushed it gently. There was a sound of bump dash, as if it hit something. Chi Jinkai raised his eyebrows in surprise and looked to the side. Then, he saw Li Ju standing upside down in the corner by the door. Chi Jinkai. Li Ju, who was suddenly hit by the door and almost unsteady, opened her eyes. One was looking upright, the other was looking backwards, their eyes collided, and they looked at each other speechlessly. Chi Jinkai was stunned on the spot, not expecting that Li Ju would stand on his head in the room. He coughed lightly, and his eyes unconsciously fell on her, gradually moving upward, from her slender neck to her slender white arms, and then to her slender waist that could not fit into a hand. From his angle, he could even clearly see the shallow umbilical fossa on Li Ju's waist and a mole next to the umbilical fossa. Chi Jinkai's eyes darkened, his delicate Adam's apple slid up and down, and he said in a low voice, "There are no women's bath towels in the apartment, you can use mine first." As he spoke, he handed her the white bath towel in his arms. Li Ju watched his movements and frowned. She bent her arms and rolled her long legs off the wall. Her black sweatshirt just fell down due to her movement, covering her alluring white scenery. Chi Jinkai calmly looked back. Li Ju reached out and took off the earphones and asked, "What did you just say?" The action just now made her hair very messy, and a few strands of hair were still stuck to her face. With her blank expression, she felt inexplicably cute. A flash of emotion flashed across Chi Jinkai's eyes, and he couldn't help but reach out his hand and gently push the hair from her face behind her ears. Li Ju was stunned for a moment, as if she didn't expect his action. His calloused fingertips lightly scratched her delicate skin, causing an itch. Looking at Chi Jinkai in slight surprise, his expression became a little unnatural. Chi Jinkai, on the other hand, looked indifferent, as if what he just did was perfectly reasonable, and said, "There are no ladies' bath towels, so you can make do with it first." Li Ju looked at the bath towel he handed over, nodded blankly, and said, "Okay." Chi Jinkai smiled, "What were you doing just now?" "Eat enough, let's exercise." Chi Jinkai looked at her unexpectedly, "Exercise? Does standing still and handstand against the wall count as exercise?" "Then you've finished exercising now." Li Ju didn't say anything, just put the towel on his arm like him, and then looked at him quietly. "Chi Jinkai." "Well," he disturbed her. Chi Jinkai looked away and avoided her gaze. When he saw the suitcases lying on the floor, he was stunned. "Why don't you tidy them up?" Li Ju followed his line of sight, spread his hands, and said, We'll just stay here for a few days. We'll have to clean it up now. It's troublesome. What's more, her house will be ready soon, and she will only stay here for 2 days at most, so there is no need to unpack all her suitcases. Hearing her words, Chi Jinkai frowned without a trace. A flash of displeasure flashed in his eyes, as if he was not satisfied with her moving away. I'm talking about Mr. Chi. Li Ju curled her lips and said, do you think it's appropriate to stay in a girl's room late at night? Seeing that he was still standing there, he wanted to tease him, but Chi Jinkai raised his eyebrows lightly and asked, are you a girl? Li Ju. Li Ju narrowed her eyes and curled her lips in a sneer. Could it be that he saw that she didn't exercise enough and sent her to her door to be her sandbag? Twist your wrist back and forth, interlock your fingers, and make a crisp sound. I advise you to think carefully before speaking. Seeing that she looked like she wanted to fight, her delicate and charming eyes were half squinted, the tips of her eyebrows were lightly furrowed, showing displeasure, and her whole person looked very intimidating. But for some reason, in Chi Jinkai's eyes, her appearance seemed a little cute. Chi Jinkai was amused in his heart. With its teeth and claws dancing, it looked like a little wildcat with fierce breasts. If Li Ju knew this, I'm afraid he would be dead in the next moment. But unfortunately, Li Ju didn't have the ability to read minds. She just watched his expression develop into increasingly weird places. Li Ju. Is this person crazy? End of this chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Fei. Chapter 236. Chapter 236, Gossip Overturned, First Update. Chi Jinkai coughed lightly, glanced at Li Ju, turned around and opened the door to leave. Li Ju. Is this person really sick? Li Ju said something incomprehensible and entered the bathroom with a bath towel. Half an hour later, Li Ju came out with her jet black hair hanging loosely, with water droplets still dripping from the end of her hair. Her long curly eyelashes were stained with moisture, and her charming eyes were also misty at this time, and they were particularly clear and light. After blow-drying her hair, Li Ju lay on her back on the bed, picked up her phone, and saw 99 plus unread messages on WeChat. Li Ju frowned and clicked in to take a look. 6. Where are the people? Come out, everyone, shocking news. 3. 6th sister, why are you crazy, has your account been hacked? You, about the boss, whether you like to hear it or not. Hey, what's wrong, boss? Cough. Have you forgotten that the boss is also here? 3. 4. 6. Don't worry, she doesn't have time to watch the group now. Oh ho. 6. Boss, she and Third Master are living together. Do you think she still has time to look at her mobile phone? Sneaky smile JPG. The group was silent for a minute. 4. Woko. 3. Damn it. I'll wipe. 8. Oh my god. Missed grass. 5. 3. Fifth brother, you are destroying the formation. I am going. Fifth brother, you actually know how to use a mobile phone? 4. Even Lao Wu exploded out, tisk tisk tisk. 3 tuts mean a lot. Li Ju squinted his eyes, danger flashed in his eyes. 5. 6. Where did it come from, is it reliable? Everyone. Fifth brother, will you die if you type a few more words? He yao. Alright, you are the brother and you have the final say. At this moment, Bimwu, who dropped this shocking news, spoke again. I have just been busy. 6 at told me personally, and the information is guaranteed to be reliable. Oh. What do you think the boss is doing now? Squinting smilage page. It is now 8:30 in the evening. It is dark and very cold outside. The weather forecast is for moderate to heavy snow tonight, so unless there are special circumstances, I usually stay at home. What can a man and a woman do when they live together in the same room? Children should not be so mature in their thinking. Don't GHS every day. 8. Ayao, have you watched something unhealthy again? Hiyao is feeling depressed. Why is her mind unhealthy? I am asking whether the boss will date the third master now. What are you thinking? It's you who I watch GHS. Dash 4. Dash 8. Dash 10. Are you very free? Almost instantly, there was a deathly silence in the group, and there was no sound. Li Ju sneered, pretending to be dead, right? Since we are all free, we must participate in the training camp in the next few days, especially Lao Lu. The next moment, almost everyone in the group was wailing. 3. No, boss, it will kill people. Boss, please don't kill me. Boss, we were wrong. Boss, I am injured, can I ask for injury leave? Li Ju raised his eyebrows and moved his fingers lightly. If you say a few more words, you will be cured. Bimwiu. If you really want to ask for injury leave, how about I help you make it more realistic? 6. No need, boss, I will definitely be there. Let Li Ju help her, I'm afraid she won't be able to do it without lying in bed for a year and a half. Bimwiu wailed and fell into the quilt, burying his head deep in it like an ostrich, and his intestines turned green with regret. She was bored in the hospital. She had just learned about the exciting news that Li Ju and Shi Jingkai were living together. She couldn't wait to share it with others, so she couldn't help but break the news in the group. As a result, he was immediately caught by the real owner. Is there anything more embarrassing than this? According to Li Ju's temperament, she will definitely be trained to death. Thinking of this, Bimwiu's oval-like face suddenly wrinkled, and his watery eyes were filled with despair. The rules of the second team are that a training camp must be held every 3 months, and no absence is allowed unless there are special circumstances. Speaking of training, it is essentially to complete tasks with extremely high difficulty levels. Usually the tasks have a time limit. If you cannot finish the task within the fixed time, you will have to accept the punishment. Punishment will not make you feel physical pain, it will directly make you collapse mentally. For example, the last time the fourth child failed to complete the task, all his cars were looted. Another example is the last time the seventh child exceeded the schedule time, all her clothes and bags were donated. This inhumane rule was formulated by Li Ju. She is the one who issues the task. What is even more terrifying is that she is also the one who executes the punishment. Bimwiu no longer knows how to face the sun tomorrow with a smile. Li Ju has come up with endless ways to torment them over the years, and it was because of their tenacity that they did not get depressed in her hands. As soon as Bai Yuxiu entered the door, he saw Bimwiu covering his head with the quilt and shaking it constantly. Thinking something had happened, Bai Yuxiu asked, Xiaoyu, what's wrong with you? Bimwiu paused. Bimwiu raised his head and looked at Bai Yuxiu with a blank expression, not knowing how to react. Just now, did he see his stupid look? At that moment, Bimwiu's face was filled with embarrassment. No, it's okay. Bimwiu felt like his tongue was tied up. Bai Yuxiu put the lunchbox he was holding on the table, opened the lid, and the alluring aroma wafted out from inside, making people breathe. Carefully blew a spoonful of soup, handed it to Bimwiu's mouth, and said softly, drink some of the bone soup made by Aunt Chen, be careful not to burn it. Bimwiu's eyes lit up, and he immediately took a sip, arching his eyebrows in enjoyment. Aunt Chen is the elder of their family. It can be said that she grew up watching the two brothers and sisters. She is good at cooking. When they were young, the Bai family and his wife were often away on business trips. The two of them grew up under the care of Aunt Chen. I also like to eat her cooking the most. Bimwiu asked, didn't Aunt Chen retire and go back to her hometown? Her wife passed away a few months ago. It was not convenient to live alone with or without children, so I took her back. Bim Weo nodded and said with a smile, I haven't seen Aunt Chen for a long time. After Bai Yuxiu fed her a few mouthfuls of soup, he wiped the corners of her mouth carefully. If she sees you like this, she will definitely feel distressed to death. To be honest, Bim Weo looks pitiful now, with gauze wrapped around his head and plaster on his arm and left leg. If Aunt Chen, who had watched her grow up since childhood, saw her, she would definitely be extremely distressed. Bim Weo lowered his eyes and pouted, Aunt Chen will still talk about me to death. Bai Yuxiu chuckled, then you should take good care of your injuries and make yourself fat and healthy. I'm sure Aunt Chen won't say anything. Bim Weo's eyes twitched, Bai Pang Pang, brother, are you talking about a big meaty insect? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy Enfe. Chapter 237. Chapter 237, What was photographed, second update. Bim Weo's injury was not serious, but Bai Yuxiu was still worried and moved her directly to the VIP special care ward. He stayed on the sofa in the ward all night so that he could take care of her at all times. Early the next morning, when Bai Yuxiu woke up, his eyes were dark and bloodshot, and it seemed that he had not slept well. Despite this, he simply washed up, said goodbye to Bim Weo, and went to work in the company. His state made Bim Weo feel heartbroken, and she felt even more uncomfortable when she thought that he was doing it for herself. Bai Yuxiu left, and He Han pushed open the door and came in. Bim Weo looked at Bai Yuxiu's retreating back in a daze, biting his lip, with some guilt in his eyes. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. What's wrong? Is this injured? Are you Mr. Bai? Why do you look so distressed? Bim Weo looked away and glanced at the fruit basket she was holding. There was a delicate card on it. It was unclear what was written on the card. It should be some kind of blessing. But, she and He Han are so familiar, even if she comes to visit the doctor, she won't write a blessing card, right? Bim Weo raised his eyebrows slightly. When did you become so polite? He Han followed her gaze, lifted the fruit basket in his hand, rolled his eyes, and said in a cold tone, this is a gift from Qin Kaiyuning, force it into my arms and ask me to bring it to you. After stuffing it and running away, you are really not afraid that she will throw it away, are you? How dare you do such a thing and give me a fruit basket? If she hadn't run so fast, she would have dunked a fruit basket on her head. Bim Weo's face didn't change much, and he said calmly, oh, then put it on the table. He Han suddenly opened his eyes in surprise, aren't you even angry? Bim Weo said, angry? Why am I angry with a gun? Gun. He Han frowned. Does she mean Qin Kaiyuning was used as a gun? Sister you will send out a message later and say that from now on in this circle, there will be her without me and me without her, Bim Weo said. He Han's eyes flashed, and his heart tightened subconsciously. She knew that Bim Weo was serious about it. Nowadays, who in the entertainment industry doesn't know that Bim Weo is the eldest daughter of the Bai family, and that the president of the entertainment giant Fenghua Entertainment is her brother? She can be said to be an existence that can move sideways in this industry. Her words undoubtedly issued a fatwa to the industry. From now on, as long as it involves the entertainment industry, I'm afraid Qin Kaiyuning will never have a foothold. Qin Kaiyuning has been in the entertainment industry for several years. He has spent the best time in the entertainment industry. If he is banned, he will be dead. This sentence is not cruel, but it was her own death. However, He Han still had some doubts in his heart. Mr. Bai will help you handle these things, why do you do it yourself? Bim Weo snorted, because I feel unhappy with her. If it hadn't been for Qin Kaiyuning, how could she have been so bored in the hospital? How could she have heard the gossip about Li Ju and Qi Jinkai living together? How could she not have resisted breaking the news in the group? How could she have been caught and ended up overturning? The most important thing is that Bai Yuxiu didn't get a good rest last night and was worried about her all night. She must be in a bad state at work today. These are all caused by Qin Kaiyuning. He Han. He Han didn't understand the twists and turns in Bai Mui's heart, so he just nodded and said, okay. Also, how long will it take for you to recover from your injury? You have a very busy schedule ahead. If your injury takes a long time, I will push it for you. Bai Mu thought for a while and said, push it away. Although she is fine now, looking at Bai Yuxiu's condition, I'm afraid he won't be relieved if he doesn't let her take care of her for a few months. He Han nodded, as expected, okay, I'll postpone all those schedules, and you can take this opportunity to have a good rest. This man works like a desperate man, especially in the past few years. He has been working all night long, and his work and rest are extremely chaotic, as if he has lost his mind and gone crazy. If she hadn't known all about Bai Mui's itinerary, she would have thought that she was dumped and wanted to use work to vent her emotions. Okay, I get it. He Han sighed, then thought of something, and smiled again. Sometimes I really envy the relationship between you and Mr. Bai. You don't know that when you fell off the Wia, Mr. Bai's whole body was filled with tears. Like crazy. He rushed out directly, so fast that he could only see the afterimage, like a ghost. Speaking of this, Bai Mu narrowed her eyes. She fell and was smashed to pieces that day, so she neglected some things. Why did my brother show up on the set that day? She asked. He Han was stunned. Don't you know? Mr. Bai went to visit the class that day. Bai Mu shook his head. Maybe Bai always wanted to give you a surprise when you fell. He had been there for a long time, and he had been filming you with a camera, but you didn't notice it? The play that day was a big scene, with a large number of extras and crew, and a sea of people. In addition, Bai Mu was too busy at the time and did not notice that Bai Yuxiu was normal. Mr. Bai saw that you were busy, so he didn't want to disturb you, so he just patted you silently in the corner, He Han said with a smile. Bai Yuxiu was so considerate to her that there was nothing to say. However, the next moment, Bai Mu frowned slightly. She remembered that at that time, she seemed. Bai Mu's expression suddenly changed. Sister, are you sure my brother is filming me? Yes. How long did the filming take? Well, let me think about it. He Han recalled the time carefully. We arrived at the crew at 8:30 that day. Mr. Bai should have arrived at noon, and it should have been taken at that time. Broken. Bai Mu's clear water eyes became solemn, and his eyebrows were furrowed. If Bai Yuxiu really filmed her on that camera, it was very likely that it was all recorded. If he saw it, it would be a big deal. He Han saw that Bai Mu looked a little uncomfortable and asked with concern, what's wrong? Is there any problem? Oh nope. Bai Mu lowered his eyes, praying in his heart that Bai Yuxiu would never discover anything. Fenghua Entertainment, President's Office. After listening to the supervisor's report, Bai Yuxiu waved his hand and asked him to go out. The door was closed, and there was silence in the huge office. Bai Yuxiu pinched the center of his eyebrows and pressed his swollen and painful temples. I didn't sleep much last night, and after listening to so many people's work reports today, my head is going to explode. There was a knock on the door again. Bai Yuxiu sat up straight again, braced himself, and said, come in. Teo opened the door and walked in, placing a USB flash drive on his table. President, this is the video you recorded before of the eldest lady on the set. End of this chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy Enfe. Chapter 238. Chapter 238. Why are you checking your brother? First update. Bai Yuxiu lowered his eyes and looked at the black USB flash drive on the table. His eyes couldn't help but soften. He made a soft hum in his throat and said, "Put it here, you can go out." The special assistant bent slightly towards him and went out. Byuxia picked up the USB flash drive, put it in his hand and rubbed it back and forth. Finally, with a slight smile on his lips, he connected it to the computer, and the video inside was quickly uploaded successfully. He thought, since his mind is very confused now, he might as well watch Bymu's video to relax. So, he clicked the mouse with his finger and clicked on the video file. Byuxia propped his head and watched the video he recorded with slight interest. Originally, I wanted to take a picture and watch it with Xiao, but who would have thought that something unexpected would happen? When Xiao is discharged from the hospital, show her this video. Since the video was shot secretly, the picture quality is not particularly good and there is a lot of noise, but Byuxia can still identify the protagonist in the video at a glance. Bymu was preparing for filming at the time, and the directors around her were telling her about the scene, and she would reply a few words from time to time. When there was no role for her, she would sit on the side, sipping milk tea, and concentrate on watching other people filming. While carefully watching others filming, making small movements, and occasionally yawning, Byuxia bent his eyes, unable to hide the smile in his eyes. This is his little princess. Suddenly, in a certain frame, Bymu was holding a glass of water in her hand, looking away from the camera at a hidden angle as if she was doing something. Something seemed wrong with her at this time, and the knuckles of the fingers holding the water glass had turned white. Even though it was only for one frame, Byuxia still frowned. Is she uncomfortable? Why didn't he discover it then? Move the mouse to enlarge the picture, but this is a video, so it is not feasible at all. Even if you zoom in, the picture will be blurred and nothing can be seen at all. Byuxia frowned for a while, and then relaxed. Forget it, if Xiao had anything to do, he would definitely tell him as soon as possible. However, if he had been in front of Bymu at that time, he would have definitely seen that at a certain moment, the glass of water in her hand suddenly started to spread white mist from the bottom of the glass. In a few seconds, it was originally at normal temperature. The water solidified and was frozen into ice. It was just a blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, the water in the quilt returned to its original state, as if everything that just happened was just a temporary dazzle. In the corner where no one noticed, Bymu's forehead was covered with a thin layer of sweat. Suddenly, her long eyelashes trembled slightly, and she opened her clear water eyes, and a flash of light blue flashed across her eyes. Light. Han stayed for a while and then left. Before leaving, he asked Bymu to send a message to comfort the fans. However, the latter didn't listen at all. She was now worried about whether Byuxia would capture the scene. After thinking for a moment, Bymu picked up the phone. "Lao-san, do you have time? Do me a favor." Yao, who was going to the canteen, paused, her eyes full of interest. "You actually asked me for help. Stop talking nonsense, I'm going to tell you something serious." Yao raised her eyebrows. Her tone sounded a little urgent. She stopped joking and asked, "What's the rush?" "Hack into my brother's computer." "Your brother, Mr. Bai?" "Well, help me check the videos on his computer." Yao was silent for a few seconds, sideways avoiding the flow of people rushing towards the canteen, holding her pocket with one hand, and looking for a cool shade. The surroundings finally quieted down, and Yao joked, "Why are you checking on Mr. Bai?" "To see if he watched a movie behind your back." "Bymu, why do you slip through the crackdown every year during the anti-pornography campaign?" Yao touched her chin and thought carefully, "Probably, I am so yellow that I am naturally white." "Bymu." Bymu stared and shouted at the phone, "Hurry up and check it with me." "Okay, sir, please wait a moment." After saying that, he hung up the phone. Bymu held her forehead, mentally and physically exhausted. Sooner or later, She was so angry with He Yao that she had a myocardial infarction. 10 minutes later, the phone rang. Hello. He Yao sat cross-legged on the lawn, leaning against a thick tree trunk with her back, a black notebook on her lap, and the fingers of her right hand kept jumping on the keyboard. I have dug out everything in your brother's computer, whether encrypted or unencrypted. Which one do you want to see? Look to see if there are any videos of him on the set. He Yao moved her fingers slightly and clicked to watch one by one. After a while, she said, "It's true, but..." Her tone suddenly became very strange. Bimweo was confused. What's wrong? He Yao clicked her tongue twice and felt goosebumps all over her body. Hey baby's daily life, this is the name given to me. I can't tell that Mr. Bai still has such a bad taste. It's really disgusting. Bimweo's face darkened. Why are you paying attention to those? Then what are you paying attention to? He Yao rolled her eyes. Those 5 words were right there, and it was difficult to ignore them. Bimweo took a deep breath, calmed down, and said, look carefully at this video to see if there is anything that cannot be filmed. Last time I suffered from sequelae on the set, and I didn't expect that my brother happened to be recording at that time. He Yao pointed her fingers and said in a more serious tone, you said you suffered from sequelae. Bimweo hummed. Haven't you had an attack for a long time? And the 7th sister said you should be fine. He Yao suddenly stood up from the ground and dropped the notebook on her lap to the lawn. Fortunately, it was not broken. It's okay, it's just that one time. Are you sure? Don't be like the boss. Bimweo smiled, come on, boss, it's just a mental illness. How could I be so serious? He Yao snorted, I can't say for sure. I think back then dash. At this point, He Yao suddenly paused, swallowed all the original words, and rephrased her words. I thought that the boss was so calm on the surface, and thought she was fine, but it turned out to be so serious. Bimweo was silent for a moment. I wouldn't do that. Tisk, who cares about you? He Yao hummed softly, bent down, picked up the notebook, put it back on her lap, clicked on the video, and carefully observed frame by frame. A few minutes later, He Yao blinked her sour eyes and said to Bimweo, don't worry, the picture is all blurry and nothing was captured. Bimweo breathed a sigh of relief subconsciously, that's good. I said, 6th sister, can you stop bothering me? If you are willing to listen to 7th sister and take a good rest, the injury you suffered 4 years ago will not have any sequelae. I have a sense of propriety, Bimweo said. He Yao snorted, you have a sense of propriety. Just like the boss, she is disobedient. No wonder the 7th sister is getting more and more irritable. It's a surprise that she doesn't get angry to death when meeting these 2 people. Bimweo. Today is Fei Fei's birthday. In order to celebrate Fei Fei turning 1 year older, I will add an update chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Fei. Chapter 239. Chapter 239. Ayeo, I want to make you better. Second update. Bimweo narrowed his eyes and said, third brother, no matter how big or small you are, be careful because I'll cut you. He Yao stuck out her tongue and didn't care about her threat. She was not much older than him. What's more, she was in the hospital now and it seemed inconvenient to attack someone. So, He Yao's lips curved into a malicious smile, 6th sister, I just looked at it. Mr. Bai's computer is very clean, with no colored things. He is still a man as pure as white paper. Cough. Bimweo almost choked to death on his saliva. Hey. Yao. Do you have any professional ethics? Don't you know you can't just look into other people's privacy? Bimweo uttered the sentence word by word, his back teeth grinding loudly. Why does this girl have such a strange focus all day long? He Yao was innocent, 6th sister, you asked me to hack into his computer. The implication is that you asked her to invade other people's privacy. What does it have to do with her? Bimwew. Bimwew couldn't bear it anymore. Get out. He said flatteringly, okay, madam, please transfer the reward to my account. I will waste my lunch time to serve you. It doesn't need to be more, 100,000 is enough. Bimwew was completely silent, so angry. He didn't hear the answer and just thought she agreed. She hung up the phone, stood up from the ground, patted the dust on her school uniform, put her notebook in her arm, and walked to the teaching building while humming a tune. Go. During lunchtime, both teachers and students are queuing up in the cafeteria. Classrooms and offices are empty, and the corridors are extremely silent. He walked briskly, humming a tune while jumping up and down, and knocked on the door of the teacher's office. However, when she received no answer, he raised her eyebrows slightly, thinking that there was no one inside, so she reached out and pushed the door open. The next second, her hand holding the doorknob paused, and her whole body froze in place, her eyes fixed in one direction without blinking. The white shirt he had taken off was half draped on his muscular forearms. He had broad shoulders and a narrow waist, a straight back, and long and well-proportioned legs. The shirt covered half of his exposed abdominal muscles, and the lines around his waist were smooth and distinct. The complexion is cold and deceptively white. Good on. Looking at this scene, he couldn't help her throat sliding up and down, and the clear sound of swallowing was particularly abrupt in the empty office. He Grass. To die. The next moment, the man's warm eyes looked over, and tiny rays of light fell in, like a windless night. The gentleness was intoxicating. When their eyes met, he felt that her soul was about to be taken away by him. She suddenly felt dizzy and forgot what she was here for. Chi Anyun was stunned when he saw He standing at the door. His eyes flashed, and he quickly put on his shirt to cover the white clothes around his waist. He came to her senses, smiled awkwardly at Chi Anyun, and said, "Brother Anyun, I'm here to give you a computer." As she spoke, she raised the black notebook in her hand. Chi Anyun stretched out his jade white hands, buttoned the last button of his shirt slowly, and slowly approached her. He felt slightly nervous and swallowed. Chi Anyun walked up to her and stood in front of her. His tall body cast a shadow over her head, almost covering her whole body. "Brother Anyun." Hearing her address, the corners of Chi Anyun's mouth slightly raised, his warm eyes turned watery, and he said softly, "What are you doing standing at the door? Come in." After saying this, a warm big hand fell on He Yao's shoulder. "Take her inside. Sit here." Chi Anyun pulled a chair for her and sat opposite him. He put the black notebook back to its original place, lowered her head, put her hands on her legs. Her well-behaved look was completely different from the way she just spoke in a pornographic tone. "Have you finished checking the information?" He nodded. Just now, she borrowed his notebook to help Bimwew on the pretext of checking information. Chi Anyun touched her head lovingly, her warm eyes filled with relief. "Yeo, I'm very happy to see you working hard." He smiled at him and said, "Brother Anyun, don't worry, I will definitely do well in the final exam this time. I don't ask you to do well in the exam, just make progress." "Good." Chi Anyun looked at her bright eyes, which were clear and free of dust, and suddenly sighed, "Yeo, do you know why I applied to be your class teacher?" He was stunned for a moment, then shook her head. Chi Anyun was one of the few young professors at Imperial University. He should have been doing research in the laboratory or teaching on the platform of Imperial University. He had a bright future, but for some reason he was not. She came to this high school and became the head teacher of the class where she was at the bottom of the class. He raised her eyes, but she ran into a pool of warmth, as if she was about to drown in it. Brother Anyun is really, as always, exuding tenderness from his bones. She also liked his gentle and jade-like temperament. Chi Anyun looked into her eyes and sighed, I am here for you. He Yao froze, for me. Ayao, you were sent to the Chi family as a child and grew up with me. Others regard you as my child bride. What do you think about it? Chi Anyun asked. He Yao's eyes flashed, lowered her eyes, and did not answer the question. Chi Anyun sighed, you and I grew up together. I regard you as my sister, so I don't want you to be labeled as a child bride. Being in a wealthy family and being labeled like this, in the eyes of others, she is just a dependency of the Chi family and has no self. He doesn't want to see that happen. So, Ayao, I want you to work hard and stand at a height that others cannot surpass in the future. Then they will never say a word to you again, Chi Anyun said softly. He didn't want He Yao to be laughed at, so he hoped that she could work harder and become better than others. He Yao's eyes were a little hot, and a sourness enveloped her eyes. She didn't know what was the reason for the soreness in her eyes. Is it because Chi Anyun is so moved by thinking about her, or because she feels guilty for hiding so many things from him? He Yao felt a little confused. Seeing that she was silent, Chi Anyun asked, Ayao, what are your thoughts? He was worried that what he said would put too much pressure on her, and said, I'm not forcing you. It doesn't matter even if you don't want to work hard. The Chi family can afford to support you, and your uncle can't let others make irresponsible remarks about you. I just want to make you better. The last few words, every word hit He Yao's heart hard. He Yao took a deep breath, raised her head, looked at Chi Anyun steadily, and asked, Brother Anyun, what do you think of me? Others say I am your child bride, but what about you, what do you think? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Faye. Chapter 240. Chapter 240 Puppy Love. Teacher Chi? Chi Anyun's gentle eyes paused, and after a while, he said, Ayao, I treat you as my sister, at least for now. She is much younger than him, and he has taken care of her as a sister since she was a child. If she is suddenly treated as a fiancée, he is not a pervert. He does not have that kind of habit, so he will naturally not get used to it. He Yao was not too surprised. She also expected his answer. She is not yet underage, she is indeed too young, so it is understandable that Chi Anyun does not regard her as a woman. However, he does not see her as a woman, but she sees him as a man, and she is still a man she likes. He Yao's lips suddenly curled up into a slight smile, and she looked directly at Chi Anyun, her eyes filled with an unprecedented amount of love that couldn't be melted away. But brother Yan, I have thoughts about you. Chi Anyun froze suddenly, and his gentle eyes were filled with shock for the first time. He looked at He Yao in disbelief, thinking she was joking. However, He Yao is rare and serious. Brother Yan, I like you. I have liked you for many years. I fell in love with you from the first moment I saw you. Perhaps when I was still young, I just wanted to be close to you, but as I grew up, my understanding of your feelings also changed. I like you, brother Yan, and the love between men and women, it's like nothing else. He Yao just stared at him, naturally pouring out the feelings that she had been hiding in her heart for so many years and did not dare to tell him. She only dared to silently let them ferment by herself. Chi Anyun said nothing, and the atmosphere suddenly became silent. After a long time, Chi Anyun spoke, his voice low and hoarse, with an imperceptible tremor, Ayao, I. He couldn't say the next words. He had no idea that He Yao had been thinking this way about him. If you knew. Chi Anyun sighed helplessly, so what if he knew? Deliberately alienating her? Or let her leave? This is already the case, and there is no other way. Chi Anyun cleared her throat and spoke again, Ayao, I understand what you mean, but you are still in school, so you must focus on your studies. He Yao waited for a long time and finally waited for such a sentence. Her face darkened for a moment. She looked at Chi Anyun's handsome face and saw a trace of embarrassment on his calm face. He Yao raised her eyebrows. Was she pretending to be calm? Looks like he was quite excited by her confession. He Yao's eyes lit up with joy. As long as there was no reaction, it meant that she still had a chance. Knowing that Chi Anyun was not calm in his heart, He Yao became much calmer. Brother Anyun, I know, I will put my studies first and work hard. Chi Anyun breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that He Yao didn't overreact to what he said. In fact, when he said those words just now, he felt a little uneasy in his heart. After all, she is only a 17-year-old girl now, with an impulsive personality. She is afraid that she will do something crazy if her head gets hot. How did he know that He Yao was not an ordinary minor? Her thoughts and even behavior were much more mature than those of her peers. Therefore, He Yao continued, I will pay close attention to my studies, but I will not give up liking you. Chi Anyun's expression froze on his face, and he didn't know what kind of reaction he should make. He Yao saw his dazed look, coupled with his handsome face. It was so fun. He Yao pursed her lips and snickered, then stood up suddenly, startling Chi Anyun, and leaned back subconsciously. The next moment, He Yao suddenly stretched out her hands and put them on the armrests of his chair, looked down at him, locked her eyes tightly with him, and said word by word, I'm serious, I like you, and I want to chase you. Chi Anyun's eyes suddenly trembled, and he was stunned by her heroic words. In the past, He Yao had always been very well behaved and obedient in front of him, but why was she suddenly like this today? Forgive him that his mind is in chaos right now and he can't find words to describe it. Seeing his silence, He Yao leaned forward. Seeing that her whole body was about to press against him, Chi Anyun suddenly stretched out his hand and put it on her soft and slender waist, letting her body stop in mid-air, stopping her from getting any closer. He Yao paused, her eyes flashed with a bit of complexity. Her waist had always been very sensitive, and when he held her like this, she almost broke his neck reflexively. However, Chi Anyun was in an extremely confused state now and didn't even realize where he put his hands. He just wanted He Yao to calm down first. Yao, listen to me, you are in puppy love, and it is wrong. He Yao raised her eyebrows and said, I am your child bride, what kind of puppy love is falling in love with you? Chi Anyun wanted to give himself a slap in the face. He was really confused and his mind was also confused. His IQ had dropped. Thinking of this, Chi Anyun took a few deep breaths, forced herself to calm down, suppressed the beating heart in her chest, closed her eyes darkened slightly. Yao, the love is mutual, you like me, but now I haven't fallen in love with you yet. He Yao chuckled, it doesn't matter, I told you, I will chase you. Chi Anyun. Chi Anyun was helpless, why didn't this girl listen? Yao, chasing people takes a lot of time and energy, I don't want you to waste it. Chi Anyun tried to persuade He Yao to give up her thoughts on him. It's not a waste, every second I spend with you will not be wasted. Because it's you, every minute and every second is precious. Yao, who is as highly educated as Chi Anyun, is now at a loss for words. He looked up at He Yao dumbfounded and had no choice but to spit out, Yao, you are still young. He Yao finally couldn't help it and burst into laughter. Brother Anyan was so cute. With a starry smile in her eyes, she slowly leaned down and rubbed the side of Chi Anyun's face affectionately with her delicate and smooth face. Her movements were a bit coquettish, like a little animal trying to please someone. Chi Anyun's body is as stiff as a sculpture, his facial expression has become petrified, and his whole person is in a state of emptiness. He has never been so close to his mother in the past 20 years or so. When He Yao moved slightly away, you could clearly see that his handsome face was visibly stained with crimson. The smile in He Yao's eyes deepened, and she leaned down again, her cherry lips gently falling on the side of his face, with the unique sweet smell of a girl. At this moment, all movements seem to be slowed down, and his face the touch becomes extremely sensitive. At this time, the blush on his face spread to his ears. He Yao had a smile on her lips. Brother and Yan, I want to chase you and fall in love with you. It's not a child's nonsense, it's a relationship based on marriage. I think I can show up after I reach the age. It's in your Chi family's household registration book. So, Teacher Chi, do you want to have a puppy love with me? Okay, the third update is over. The CPS of He-san and Brother and Yan should be the first couple in this article who are about to establish a relationship, right? Cover's face, congratulations. I saw a little cutie in the comments saying that he thinks the male and female protagonists are particularly good looking. Even if the front part doesn't look good, the back part will definitely look good. The same goes for this book. Even if the front part doesn't look good, the back part will definitely look good. I think this sentence speaks to my heart. This is my first time writing. There are definitely shortcomings and mistakes. The previous plot may be bad, the male and female protagonists may have bad characters and lose their wits, but it will definitely get better later on. Get up, haven't you noticed? I feel that I have made progress in recent chapters, which is something worth celebrating. End of this chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy Enfe. Chapter 241. Chapter 241 Going to MZ, first update. Teacher Chi, there is braised pork in the canteen today. The door was suddenly pushed open. The words stopped suddenly and disappeared in his throat when he saw the situation in the office. The two people who had been frozen turned their heads to look at the door at the same time. He Yao raised her eyebrows. The person coming was an English teacher in the same grade group and also the grade director. He was one of the few people besides the principal who knew about her relationship with Chi Anyun. She cast her eyes between the two of them in horror, her eyes full of disbelief. The next second. Sorry to bother you, keep going. After saying that, the door was slammed shut. She turned around and pressed her back against the door, taking a deep breath. These two people are so exciting, in broad daylight, in the office, so. He Yao is not yet an adult. Teacher Chi, are you so hungry? Inside the door, Chi Anyun helplessly turned his gaze back to look at the postures of the two of them. The woman was on top of the man and the man was on the bottom. It was full of ambiguity. No wonder the female teacher misunderstood. Ayeo, can you get up first? Chi Anyun was afraid that someone would come back later and see the scene, which would have a bad impact. No, He Yao shook her head willfully and looked at him, will you agree or not? Ayeo, the other teachers will be back later, it's not good to be seen. He Yao's lips curved and she said nonchalantly, if you are seen, you will be seen. As she spoke, she stretched out her slender fingers and slowly touched the collar of his shirt, gathered up the slightly open collar, and tied the top button to his Adam's apple. Iffies. Chi Anyun took a breath. The blow just now almost strangled him to death. He Yao rolled her eyes and pouted, Brother and Yan, don't think I don't know, but you are liked by those female teachers. Every time she looked at him, he was like a wolf seeing flesh, making her want to dig out their eyeballs. The dark light in He Yao's eyes flashed away. Chi Anyun chuckled helplessly, okay, stop messing around, lunch break is almost over, you should go back to class. Number 1 middle school has always been very strict about students' work and rest time, and the lunch break is not long. While she and Chi Anyun were having an ambiguous atmosphere in the office just now, other teachers and students had finished their lunch and came back from the cafeteria one after another. Although He Yao likes to make trouble, she also knows how to behave and gets down from the chair obediently. But she had been standing on one leg for a long time, with the other leg kneeling on a chair, which caused her calf to suddenly become numb and she almost fell down. Chi Anyun quickly supported her with quick eyes and hands, frowned and asked, "Are you okay? Why are you so careless?" He Yao raised the corners of her mouth, arched her eyebrows, and wrapped her arms around his neck, saying coquettishly, "My legs are numb, I need a kiss to heal them." Chi Anyun glared at her slightly, then lowered his head and massaged her calves with his hands. After a while, he asked, "How is it?" He Yao looked at his handsome profile and was entranced. She suddenly heard his words and came back to her senses in a daze. "Ah, okay." She jumped out of Chi Anyun's arms, quickly kissed him on the face, and said, "Brother Anyan, I'm leaving first. See you after school." As soon as He Yao turned around, she heard Chi Anyun's gentle voice coming from behind her, "Ayeo." She turned around and glanced into Chi Anyun's gentle eyes, which seemed to fill the sky with stars. He was looking at her deeply and said, "I'll wait until you grow up." Upon hearing this, He Yao was startled and did not realize what he meant. The next moment, her eyes suddenly lit up and she said excitedly, "Really?" Chi Anyun nodded. The corners of He Yao's mouth immediately raised, revealing an uncontrollable smile. The joy in her eyes could not be concealed, and she immediately flew towards him, wrapping her two slender legs around his waist. Chi Anyun was caught off guard and subconsciously stretched out his hand to steady her body, frowning, "Ayeo, stop fooling around, how dangerous." He Yao stuck out her tongue, rubbed his nose with her nose, and said affectionately, "Then it's settled." Future boyfriend, He Yao no longer knew how to describe her mood, her heartbeat was calmly beating in her heart. After hearing his words, I started beating like a drum. Wait until she comes of age. There are only 3 months until her 18th birthday, which means that Chi Anyun will respond to her on her birthday. She originally thought that after she confessed, she would have to chase him for a long time before he could change his feelings for her. However, she didn't expect that he would actually say such a sentence, which showed that he still had feelings for her in his heart. He Yao was almost crazy with joy after learning this. After getting off Chi Anyun, He Yao was so excited that she couldn't find Bei. "Brother Anyun, I'm going to class first. She needs to calm down." With that said, Chi Anyun turned around and ran out, leaving Chi Anyun shaking his head helplessly with an unconcealable smile on his lips. "Hello? Sister, where are you? You promised to pick me up." Shan Mingzi was wearing a formal suit, squatting on the curb, holding a briefcase in one hand and holding a nearly burned out cigarette in the other. This nondescript behavior aroused strange looks from passers-by around him, but he didn't care at all. Suddenly, there was the sound of braking not far away, and a silver-white Maserati stopped steadily in front of him. The car window lowered, revealing Li Ju's stunning face. Shan Mingzi's eyes lit up and she stood up suddenly. "Sister." Li Ju raised his eyebrows, looked him up and down, and said jokingly, "You look quite human-like in what you are wearing." Shan Mingzi chuckled, "Aren't we going to your company, sister? We should dress more formally, I can't embarrass you." Li Ju hummed softly and raised her chin at him, "Get in the car." "Okay." Shan Mingzi got into the back seat, Li Ju stepped on the accelerator, and the car flew out like an arrow. "Sister, is this car yours? I remember it wasn't the same car before." Li Ju said calmly, "That car is useless." Shan Mingzi said, "Oh, it was quite expensive for her to travel." 10 minutes later, the car stopped at the gate of MZ. Li Ju put the black backpack placed on the passenger side on his shoulders and entered the MZ with Shan Mingzi. "Hello, do you have an appointment?" The girl at the front desk showed a standard professional smile. Li Ju took out her phone and glanced at her lightly. "I'm waiting for someone." "Okay, then please go to the rest area over there and wait." Li Ju nodded and walked straight over. Shan Mingzi followed her obediently. After a while, The elevator dedicated to the president opened, and Lutisuk hurried towards the rest area with a serious expression. Suddenly, he stopped and looked at Li Ju with a man in the rest area, drinking coffee and reading a magazine with a twitching look in his eyes. Lutisuk stepped forward cautiously and said softly, "Boss," in a respectful manner. Li Ju raised her eyelids and recognized him as the person who came to pick her up when she delivered documents last time. "It is you." Seeing that she still remembered him, Lutisuk smiled slightly. "Yes, boss, the president asked me to pick you up." End of this chapter.